morning, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. All right. I'll try to wait for a couple more y'all, and then I will kick this off. But good morning anyways. Good morning, everyone. All right, let's go ahead on and get it. So this topic is pretty much, last week I got a kind of like a cluster of topics, but there was like a theme, and like two of them were very, the reason I chose to do this topic today, because two of the questions were pretty short questions, but two of them sort of meant the same. So I figured, I reached out to both of the young ladies and told them I'll just do it in one, because it seemed like it's similar. So I'll read the quick questions. The first one is, I'm not tooting my own horn, so to speak, but I'm pretty darn near perfect, and for the life of me, I don't understand why this man of 3 years won't pull the trigger, aka get married. What gives? The next question was, I heard this from a friend. A man knows soon after he meets you if he will marry you. If it takes him 5 years, does this mean he's still searching and therefore is not likely to choose you, but rather settle for you? Is this true? It sounds pretty ugly. Okay, wow. So let me first put a disclaimer that this is just I'll give a perspective from my opinion. There's men all around the world, all around the country, so I certainly can't speak for them. I'll just kind of give my take, and I guess in doing so, I'll probably have to put my own self on the chopping block, but because I've certainly been in this situation like this maybe a time or two. Clearly, if it's two people involved in a long-term relationship, and if there's someone left, I guess, with the bag, and when I say the bag is meaning, I'm upset because he knows what I want, and he knows I told him what I signed up for, but he's not delivering. So somebody's getting mad, right? That means someone's mad. So the first thing I always say at the top is, when you're entering a long, I don't think anyone's entering to say long, unless you're just saying you want to get married, or because nowadays folks are just dating, so just depends. But if you have an end game in mind, meaning you want to date someone but be married, you really should talk about that clearly at the top. And nowadays, what seems to happen is we get together, we get attracted, we start going out on dates, we start doing all these other things, planning this, showing up at this and this, and dating, but we don't really spill out what it is we want. And before you know it, once the asphyxiation of liking someone is established and you all are moving on, dating and so on and so forth, then it becomes, so girl, how long y'all been together now? Oh, he is wasting your time, this, that, and the other. And look, it can be looked at a whole lot of ways. In some cases, it might. But obviously, sometimes women would be surprised to hear what the guy thinks of it on his end. The women have their side, and they may feel like he's wasting my time, I don't have time to play, blah, blah, blah. But unless you made it really clear to this guy what you want, unless you told him, yes, I want to date and everything, but I have an end goal of marriage in mind. I don't just want to do this forever. You always got to put that at the top, because that's your reference point for later. You got to give him that up front if that's what you want in the long haul. You can't just say I'm great and I'm all these different things, because you know what I found in life? I haven't dated or met a woman yet that has not told me that they're great. All of them think they're great. You ain't gonna find nobody like me. Everybody thinks that about themselves. If they let's just say this: if they are of sound esteem, they say that about themselves. Most women, you're gonna be hard pressed to find one that's not gonna say, "Getting with me is not gonna benefit your life." So I say that to say, you got to be clear to the guy what it is that you are looking for, and this is something I said to once before. I mentioned in my relationship. I said you got to have checkpoints along the way. You have to, when you're dating, when you're starting off, you got to be like, so maybe at that 6-month mark, maybe at that whatever mark, if you want to avoid the years piling up, you gotta be clear and kind of keep it in the forefront of that person's mind, the forefront, because if not, the good times will roll. And I'm just speaking for me, not all men, but I know men can get to a place sometimes where we'll just get comfortable with your allegiance, because really all we're looking for is your allegiance up front. If you give us the allegiance, oh, I appreciate she's this, that, and the other. But I'm gonna tell you something I had to learn for me. Listening to a lot of these, coming up as boys, and if you're around any type of hood dudes, gangster dudes, anything like that, the first thing they're gonna tell you is you need to make sure shorty loyal. Now I have a trick for that. They're gonna say she needs to be loyal. Okay, but I'll tell you, I had to come to the realization that a woman does not have to be loyal to be loved. I'm gonna repeat that. I had to come to the realization that a woman does not have to be loyal to be loved. And I think us men, that messes us up, because we're looking for something that comes in time. Somebody being loyal to you. I mean, look, a murderer can be loyal to his gang and not snitch on them, but that don't mean he loves them. He just has the code of being a loyal person. But look, what you really want is the person, you want to make sure they are trustworthy with you. They love you, and they have your best interest at heart. But the loyal part speaks to somebody being drug, if you will. And when I mean drug, is I'm being honest. I used to be like, well, I gotta make sure she loyal. Like, I have a cousin, he might get me if he's on here, but my cousin is a little older. My cousin from down south, I'll never forget. He told me once, some years ago, the person I was dating at the time was actually my fiance at the time, some back in maybe 2012 or whatever. And so we went to this family reunion of mine, and he said to me, "Cuz, have you tested her?" And I'm like, "What you talking about?" You see, what I did, what I'm telling you, what I would do, because when he said, "Look, I can't be with no female unless I know me." And he says, you need to, like, he said, I used to set my boys up. He said, I would set my boys up to try to get at her on purpose. And I even had a dude to try to get her to go to like the hotel on purpose. And he said I was selling drugs at the time, so the dudes in my circle had money, so they were very tempting guys. And he said, so I would have her to be tempted on purpose so that I can question her loyalty or not. And so that's when I said, I was like, listen, and it's theories like that and other stuff I've heard years ago, and like even on songs, she's ride or die. Well, guess what? The risk is she might die, not physically, but the risk in the ride and the die is she just may die out to herself spiritually, trying to be loyal to you. So this is why I say the woman does not have to be loyal to be loved. But that's the mindset of a lot of men. We think like that sometimes. I gotta make sure she's down for me. Well, down for you can just be her respecting you. Down for you, respecting you, loving you, this, that, and the other. And so for me, it took me time to get to that place to stop looking at things like that, because to me, loyalty started to add up to years and time, and you getting comfortable and all this. And another thing we do today that, and look, this is, I'm not trying to step on nobody's toes, just being honest. A lot of times we start off relationships by dating someone, sleeping with someone. The next thing you know, who is that? His bag on the floor? Yeah, he's moving in, right? The person moving in. And so the next thing you know, now we are emulating. You're starting off in a relationship where you're emulating a desire that you really want in the end. You really want the marriage, but you're going to emulate it by letting the person live with you now. So in doing so, they're living with you now. There's an emulation going on. And that's just, in my opinion, I'm going to say this again, in my opinion, that's not a really good way to start. Because once you make one party or the other comfortable, and it may not just be the man, women can get comfortable too. Then I can be like, well, this is working like this. He's paying me money. We paying the bills. He's giving me this on that. He's doing what he should be doing. He's spending time with my son or daughter, if that's applicable, whatever. And so that's a comfortable position to be in. And it will certainly prolong your end result if you really want to be married. It's certainly going to do it. Believe it. Because, I mean, that old school tale does not lie when it says, why buy the cow when you get the milk for free? If they're getting the milk for free, why do we got to stop this and turn this all into that? It's working smooth just like it is. It's really not. It's working against whoever wants the end result. It's working against you. It really is. So, I think that the other part of it that's tough today is, look, I'm honest. I mean, I'm realistic about it. It's expensive to live nowadays. It's hard out here. People are single moms or people, the guys doing it on their own. I remember times when I was maybe in a situation and you're dating or you with your person and your person, maybe your person is paying close to $2,000. Maybe they renting somewhere. They paying close to $2,000 and you paying two plus whatever where you are. And then you begin to say, we spending all this money. We should be pulling our money together. Yeah, it does sound good and it is attractive. But there is an extra cost associated to you subliminally, mentally, physically, if you partake. And so to the ladies, something I know some of you all that may have just came on. There's some young ladies two young ladies that had questions. One, she said she was with a guy for 3 years. She's been with him for 3 years. She thinks she's perfect, meaning she thinks she's quite the catch, and she can't fathom why he has not, closed the deal. The other person asked if men do men know up front? She's heard that men knew up front if they would marry a girl, and if so, if it takes 5 years, does it mean he's still looking, or does it mean he will likely settle for her but not choose her? Well, to the first question about the girl saying she's perfect and he should have did this by then and this, that, and the other. I always say this. We as people can feel great about one another. I mean, about ourselves, and think that we're good and we're great and all of that. True. But you should never, your praises should never be sung by you. If you're in a relationship, you shouldn't sing your own praises. He should. So if you're saying, I'm perfect, but he's not saying it, there's a disconnect somewhere. You're saying you're perfect, but because I don't know if he's ever told you that you're perfect or not, but if the fact that you're stating this in your disclaimer says to me that you're affirming yourself. So the question is has he said this to you? Does he think you're perfect? And if he thinks that you are perfect, then the next best thing is, hey, I do not want to risk this perfect thing. That's how you're gonna look at it. If it's the perfect thing, I don't want to risk it. And granted, all men don't get it at the same time, and we don't get it. And I mentioned in one of my other shows, sometimes men are simply sometimes men are simply they're in the furnace. They're being made. And you need to know the difference between your guy being made and you being made. A guy being made in the furnace, meaning he's a good guy, he has great potential, and he's trying to he's really trying to perfect himself as a man, and God is working on him and preparing him in different ways. You got to know the difference between a guy like that and a guy that's just making you. That just means he's laying you out for time on time and time, and he has really no purpose. It's like you're the perfect placeholder. So why do I need to push the trigger? Because she's perfect right now. And the reason he has that mindset, and it's not, let me be clear, it's not that he's never thought that you had value or anything like that. But here's the truth. When we do valueless things, we take on that stamp of the person not seeing you the way that you want to see yourself, whether you are or not. When you do things that are valueless, like the whole, look, I'm going to tell you, today women are doing it. They got their own houses. They got all these, they working. I mean, they got great jobs, careers, companies, all of it. And men are blind. We see this. However, men still are of the mindset, I don't care how modern times are, men still are of the mindset that, yeah, I'm supposed to be the provider, even if you don't have the provider money more than she does. Being a provider is not just financially, it's a state of mind. So if you don't have that in place, you can still garner her respect as a provider and a leader if you present yourself that way. But women, if you have all this stuff going for yourself, and then you let him, as the old folks say, let him lay up on you, that means move into your house, lay up on you, then now in his mind, he's like, this one person that he's met that's great. She's super, but the minute you let that bar down, now it is like, oh, I thought she was really gonna step up her standards, but okay. But she's cute though, she's fine, and she handling her business. So I'm gonna go ahead and this is a good arrangement. I hang some stuff up in the closet. So there you go with that, and then and so on. That's the perfect recipe for time to be wasted. Time. When the person is looking to pull the trigger, so to speak, if they're talking about being married, the person is looking at you as, look, we coming together, and you want to look at each other and see one another as the answer. I'm your answer, you're my answer. And you got to look at each other like that, and look at your worlds and be like, this person really works well in my circle. Even if they're not perfect, even if they don't have themselves in a perfect place, I can see the growth, I can see the potential, and this can be good. But as long as you don't position yourself at a deficit in the relationship, don't let time, then that's when time comes a concern. When you're at a deficit, you feel like you have taken a loss, and you got a lot to lose, and you're just kind of hinging upon whether or not the person is going to pull the trigger. You've likely at a deficit, and that's why you feel that way. And so you gotta figure it out. I mean, men, I always tell people, I think women are under the impression that men just kind of want to be out here and we just want to play and all this. And yes, we do have an affection. We do have an affection for the sandbox. But anyway, seriously, okay, aside from that, men want to be cared for and loved too. And we know that doesn't come in its totality unless you have your mate. And, I told someone before, and I'm ready to wrap up. What time is it? Oh, I told someone before that women, to a man, the reason men live longer when they're married, because their wife is their filter. The wife, just think, me as a single guy, I mean, all types of bullets and stuff can reach you. If you're unmarried, things can affect you. Darts being thrown your way, things that you may not have forgot about, or you didn't watch your back over there. Oh, I forgot what the advice this person gave me. But when you have a wife in place, she's doing the thinking behind the scenes when you sleep, when you're not looking, when this, that, and the other. She's already talking to your family, your sister, about this and this thing that's coming up for your mother, your dad, this thing that y'all are putting together, or she's already making sure the nest egg and this is okay. Because sometimes if man is a leader, he has a million things on his mind he's trying to take care of, and his world can get a little rocky. So if you don't have that person there to, as I say, complement and supplement your life, you're going to get a lot of, you know how a vacuum cleaner would look without a filter. It will look like a mess. So you need a person in your life that's going to serve as that filter, that's going to stop the things that are that are considered impurities to getting to you. And that's what you want to do. So I say, ladies, ask the question, and I say this all the time. If you're concerned about time, if you're concerned about years, before you ask him anything, you got to ask yourself, did I set out my expectations and my intention? Did I spell them out, my expectations to him up front? And if you didn't, and if you find yourself 3 years later, first you got to slap yourself on the wrist, and then you got to go and just have a conversation with him and say, I failed to do this up front. But this is honestly how I feel. I know we've gotten 3 years into this, but this right here for me doesn't work like this if it's not building towards this, because otherwise it's going to be a waste of my time. And that's what you have to say. And then you got to, go from there. But other than that, most your average person is not going to stop playing a game where there's no referee to call the time. Most people will not stop playing a game that there's no referee present to call time. On these sports fields, referees regulate the time. So in this case, in a relationship, referees are your expectations to call the time. So if you don't put the expectations out there, the game is just going to be endless. You're going to get to see your favorite sports team play for 24 hours straight, because it's going to keep on going. And on that note, you guys have a great day. I will see you all tomorrow. I hope this was help someone, and we can don't send me too much hate mail. People are like, you done got me kicked out the house. Anyway, I'm just trying to get us better and be healthy. Have a great week, everyone, and I'll see you guys tomorrow, 8:15. Take care.